Imagine meeting someone who could change your life, but you judge them too quickly. That's exactly what happened when Lisa, a young, ambitious woman, went on a blind date set up by her friends. She was excited until she saw him. James was charming, successful, and kind, but Lisa couldn't see past one thing: his race. Without giving him a chance, she brushed him off, convinced they had nothing in common. But life has a funny way of proving us wrong. The next day, Lisa walked into her new job, confident and ready to impress, only to come face to face with her new boss. It was James. Shocked and embarrassed, Lisa found herself in an unexpected situation that would challenge her views and force her to rethink everything she thought she knew. What happens next? Stay tuned to find out how Lisa navigates this eye-opening journey. Lisa's heart pounded as she stood frozen at the entrance of the office. She couldn't believe it. James, the man she had dismissed so easily the night before, was now standing in front of her with a confident smile. He looked completely different in this setting, dressed in a sharp suit, commanding the room with ease. Lisa's mind raced. How could she have been so quick to judge? Now she had to work under him, and there was no escaping the awkwardness. James, on the other hand, remained professional, acting as if their brief encounter had never happened. But Lisa couldn't shake the guilt creeping in. As the day went on, she found it harder to focus, worried that James might hold a grudge. And yet, there was something about his calm demeanor that made her wonder: was he giving her a second chance, or was this just the beginning of an uncomfortable journey? Lisa did her best to stay focused, but every time James spoke during the meeting, she felt a wave of discomfort wash over her. He was confident, knowledgeable, and well-respected by the team, everything she hadn't expected. She wondered if he remembered how she had dismissed him so quickly the night before, but James remained composed and professional. As the day went on, Lisa found herself second-guessing everything. Was she being paranoid, or did James's polite but distant attitude mean something more? During lunch, Lisa overheard a few colleagues talking about James' impressive background, his Ivy League education, his success in previous companies, and his reputation for fairness and hard work. It was a stark contrast to the assumptions she had made. Feeling a mix of guilt and curiosity, Lisa struggled to find the right moment to apologize, but fear held her back. What if she had ruined any chance of proving herself? The uncertainty lingered, making every interaction more complicated. As the days passed, Lisa felt the tension growing between her and James, even though he never brought up that awkward first meeting. He remained professional, offering feedback on her work and leading the team with confidence. But Lisa couldn't ignore the weight of her own guilt. Every time their eyes met, she felt like he could see right through her, and it made her question everything she thought she knew about him, and herself. The pressure to prove herself at work only made things worse. She stayed late, double-checked her reports, and tried to impress James, hoping to make up for her mistake without actually addressing it. Then came the big presentation. Lisa was tasked with leading a crucial project in front of senior executives, and James would be watching closely. As she stood in front of the room, her hands trembled slightly. But just before she began, James gave her a small, reassuring nod. It caught her off guard, and for a moment, she felt like he was giving her another chance. But was it too late to fix what had already been broken? The room fell silent as she opened her mouth to speak, and in that moment, everything hung in the balance. Lisa took a deep breath and launched into her presentation, determined to prove herself. At first, everything seemed to be going well. Her voice was steady, and her points were clear. But just as she reached a key slide, a sudden wave of doubt hit her. She glanced at James, hoping for another reassuring look, but his expression had changed. He was now flipping through papers, his brows furrowed. Something was wrong. Lisa's heart pounded as she realized she had made a critical error in her data. Whispers spread across the room, and a senior executive leaned in to ask James a question. He responded calmly, but Lisa could feel the tension thickening. As panic set in, she struggled to stay composed, but James stepped in smoothly, redirecting the conversation and covering for her mistake without making it obvious. Lisa was relieved but also humiliated. After the meeting, she expected James to confront her, but instead, he simply handed her a revised version of the report and walked away without a word. The silence between them now felt heavier than ever. Lisa couldn't tell if he was disappointed or just indifferent, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. As she sat at her desk, staring at the corrected figures, she realized this wasn't just about a work mistake anymore. She had to face the truth about her own biases and insecurities before it was too late. Later that evening, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that she had let everyone down, especially James. She knew she had to talk to him to finally address the tension between them. Gathering her courage, she knocked on his office door. James looked up, his expression unreadable, and motioned for her to come in. For a moment, Lisa hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I owe you an apology," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not just for today, but for the way I judged you before I even got to know you." She braced herself for his response, expecting disappointment or frustration. Instead, James leaned back in his chair and studied her for a moment before speaking. "I knew," he said calmly. "From the moment we met, I could tell what you were thinking. But people are more than first impressions, Lisa. I wanted to see if you'd figure that out for yourself." His words hit harder than she expected, and for the first time, she realized how much she had underestimated him, not just as her boss, but as a person. Lisa nodded, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. "I have a lot to learn," she admitted. James smiled slightly and handed her back the report. "We all do," he replied. Just as Lisa was about to leave, he added, "By the way, that mistake today, I've made worse." Lisa laughed nervously, surprised by his honesty. Walking out of his office, she felt a mix of relief and determination. She had been given a second chance, not just in her job, but in how she saw the world around her. And this time, she wasn't going to waste it. But just as she sat back at her desk, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Curious," she answered, only to hear a familiar voice on the other end. "Lisa, we need to talk about James." Her heart skipped a beat. Just when she thought things were settling down, another mystery was about to unfold. Lisa's grip tightened on her phone as the voice on the other end spoke carefully. It was an old colleague who had worked with James before. "You know, he went through a lot to get where he is," they said. "People doubted him, but he never let it stop him." Lisa felt a deep sense of admiration and regret. She had been so quick to judge, yet James had shown nothing but grace and professionalism. As she hung up, she realized how much she had grown in just a few days. The next morning, Lisa walked into the office with a new mindset. She greeted James with genuine respect, ready to move forward with a fresh perspective. As she dove into her work, she couldn't help but smile. Sometimes life teaches lessons in the most unexpected ways. And while she couldn't change the past, she knew she could shape a better future, one thoughtful choice at a time.